Hello, everybody.
Welcome to HOLDFAST podcast, episode 5 now.
Dang, 5 already.
That's a milestone, well, like half a milestone. Today we're joined by our lovely narrator who reads our stories for us and has a voice of pure gold, Jake Dowzell.
Hi, I'm here this time.
He's actually here with us. Instead of reading something scripted, we're going to get to pick his brain a little bit, so that's going to be fun.
Yay.
Instead of our regular... Okay, let me just get into this a little bit before we actually start. Instead of our regular storytelling podcast today, we're going to do a sort of beginners, frequently asked questions, because, like, it's been a crazy month, not only for me, but for both of you as well.
Mm-hmm.
I started a new job. Our house is in renovations and we've been really busy with that. And then our cat died and I just was not able to get the story written. And the next story coming up is a big one. So I just wanted to really take my time on it and make sure it was perfect and really do everybody in the story justice. So that's why we don't have a story this month, but we're still playing around with the format a little. We're thinking once a month of doing this type of thing and then doing one big story once a month. And that way it sort of takes some pressure off.
Yeah, that sounds fair.
Yeah. So that's where we're at right now. It's good to have the whole group here because we're just having this meeting on the air. All right. So back to it. Some frequently asked questions by larpers. I had a friend of mine send me an email. And she said, Erika, I'm starting to join a guild up here in Edmonton for LARP. And I was wondering if you had any advice for brand new beginners. All I'm really getting from my LARP group is bring a lot of socks and don't enter the spider's cave, and that's not helping me out a whole lot. So if you could send me some advice, that would be great. So I thought I'll do her one better. And I'll talk to two of my favorite LARPers, and we can all share some advice for her.
That's a nice thing to do. Yeah, tell her to tune into the episode then.
Dedicating a whole episode to her.
Nice.
What's her name?
Her name is Jane.
Hey, Jane, if you're listening, this one's for you.
Hey Jane, what's up, girl?
Okay, so okay, let's say I'm a new LARPer. What's the first piece of advice you guys would give me? Jake, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm gonna try and think of what advice I would give now, because...
Tony, do you want to start? I have a whole list of talking points here if you guys want me to get the ball rolling.
Well, I think one of the best tips that you can give a beginner is actually one of the tips that you mentioned in the very first episode of the podcast, and that is don't worry about the rulebook. Because when I first started LARPing, it was a few days before the LARP, right? And so Michael gave me this this decently
It's
thick,
a good 70-odd pages.
Yeah. So it was a lot to take in a couple days into the LARP, right? So that on top of making a character and crafting some stuff, I was really just going to go over the skills that I was going to get and then just sort of go in and figure out how stuff went as I started playing. And so if you're worried about being technically correct about every single rule, don't. Because most of the time, if you don't know how something's going to work, someone's going to explain it to you anyway, right?
Yeah. And rule books, especially if I find D&D is a good way to sort of get into building a character, what that's going to look like. Mm-hmm. But for someone who's never played D&D or never played those sorts of games that come with books on books of rules, it can be really intimidating and not make a whole lot of sense. So I always tell people take what you can from the rule book, what makes sense to you, and then just go, and people will tell you when you're wrong and when you're right along the way. And normally LARP groups are very good at that. They're very accepting of people who are new and just trying. Yeah, everyone will try and help you out as you go.
I've noticed that a lot of the time when I've been here, I still don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
I know the stuff that I do because that's what I do.
Yeah.
But the other thing's how does this work? I'm I don't know. But yeah, if something happens, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do this. And somebody who knows that section better will be like, actually, by the way, that's not how that goes. Mm-hmm. People will let you know if something is not quite right. And they won't do it in a scolding, you've done the bad thing. They'll do it in a constructive kind of, just so you know, this is how it works.
Right.
So, and that's okay. It's okay to not know everything straight off the bat.
That being said, for people who do have a lot of D&D experience, LARP is a lot more fluid. And if things don't go the way you want them to, like, it's okay. Just roll with it. Like, you're there to have fun. You're there to, like, have a good experience. And sometimes, you know, rules in a live action setting are going to work differently than in a not live action setting. So, yeah, just roll with it. Have fun. Have a good time. Everyone's there to do the same thing.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess also don't let the worry kind of stop you, because it's something that can happen, I guess. Like you kind of worry that, oh well, if I don't get it exactly right, or if I don't get everything
that's
perfect.
sort of natural. You're going into an entirely different setting, right?
Yeah.
So like for first time LARPers who haven't LARPed before, sure, maybe they've played games before, but this is an entirely different environment.
Yeah.
And so whenever anybody is thrust into a new environment, take a new job, for instance, you're going to have that anxiety. But I guess the best thing to do is not so much tell someone to worry less about it, just sort of take it as it comes and, you know, relax a little bit. That's all. It's a game.
I mean, LARPing, one of the things that I remember being super intimidated by was RP as well. And I have a roleplay background. Like, I did improv for so many years, as I've mentioned before. So if you are nervous about the RP aspect, especially if you're going with a whole group of strangers, you don't have any friends there, that's okay. You don't have to be like the best LARPer on your first day. You can just sort of go there and experience people. My best advice though is just jump into it, because everybody's there to role play. And the more that you role play, the more people feel comfortable role playing with you. And that sort of sets off like a chain reaction where everybody stays in character and everybody's like having a really good time in character instead of falling out of character. Just jump into it with 2 feet, and you know, if you need to take a second to collect yourself, that's fine.
Well, yeah. On that note, it's always nice to have something to get back into character, because there's always going to be something that'll take you out of character.
This is
right?
a very good one, yeah.
So, something that I do for my character Krond is that if I find myself slipping out of character because, well, maybe I haven't talked to anyone in a long time, or maybe like there's some downtime during game and not a lot of stuff is happening. If I find myself slipping out, there's a phrase that I'll say that I specifically say in Krond's accent, and that'll put me immediately back into back into the character.
Yeah.
So for me, that phrase is "right, listen up." And so every time I say that word or say those words, I'm right back into Krond.
Yeah.
And it's just
That's really handy to have, actually.
Yeah.
That's an old school acting technique, I believe, isn't it?
Possibly.
I mean, it helps me. Like, I gave Sylvie an accent, and I find Sylvie way easier to stay in character because of that.
Yeah.
If I'm speaking in the accent, I'm in character. Like, there's just no way around it. So that's always a good way.
Same for Big Bun, really. He speaks in an accent, and if I'm finding myself speaking in the accent, it's like, okay, well, I'm doing the accent. I'm now in Big Bun's headspace now. So that's what it is.
Yeah.
I guess on the subject of, like, being in character and out of character, like, if you're getting a little bit overwhelmed in character and you do need to step out for a bit, that's fine. Like, at the end of the day, it's a game, and games are meant to be fun, and it's like, if you're like, okay, I need to just take a step back, no one's going to judge you for it.
No. Oh, yeah, like, there have been many games where I've been like, I'm going to go sit in my tent and just, like, have a conversation with someone else who's, like, looking to take a break right now. Because it, like, especially, like, if you're going for a whole weekend or more, like, some LARPs are literally, like, 4 days to a week long, you're not going to stay in character that whole time. So, yeah, just, there's no shame in taking a break. Okay, let's talk a little bit about character creation. So your rulebook may be intimidating. It's going to be helpful to, like, talk to people who have already created a character, and they may be able to help you just... You know, you might say, like, I want to be able to, like, you know, I want to be magic in this game. So they may be able to, like, help you build a character that does magic. Hopefully, like most games, you'll have some sort of mulligan or, like, do-over with your XP. So, like, after your first game, when you sort of see what it's all about, you can rebuild your character. So ask your artistic directors and your game masters if, like, that's available to you before you create your character, because that's super helpful.
Yeah. We do it at our LARP, and it's, that's it was insanely helpful. I didn't use it that much for my character for the first time over. I just changed 1 or 2 things. I also didn't know that humans get 2 free life skills. So yeah, that was a fun thing to discover.
A lot of people don't realize that, actually. I've spoken to a lot of humans. And
Yeah.
I've spoken to a lot of humans.
Have you though? Do you know that?
No, I don't. Only in LARP. I've spoken to a lot of humans, but have you? But, sorry. But like, having the mulligan is really useful. I've seen characters who have mulliganed into like 1 or 2 extra skills. I've seen characters who have mulliganed into different races.
Yeah.
And I know that this LARP has one. I don't know about other LARPs, obviously, because I'm not
in all of them.
I'm not yet in all of them. I'm working
Ambitions.
From what I can gather, though, it seems to be a relatively common thing. So
Yeah.
as Erika said, definitely ask if you have it, because they're useful. Because you may say, oh well, I want to try and do magic, but I also want to try and do, I don't know, bow. Like I want to be an archer, and you might go to the first game and do that. I thought, actually, I didn't use my magic, but I really, really like arching. Arching?
Arching?
Is arching the word?
Archery?
Archery. I'm good at words. So you may decide you really like archery. And then you can mulligan out of the magic and into the archery. And it's useful to help you it's to give you a case of, okay, how does your character feel? How do you feel with your character? And that's always a useful thing to have.
On the topic of creating a character and a character sheet, when you are building your character, and I guess this sort of plays back into the point that I made before about not worrying so much about the rulebook or trying not to be too overwhelmed by it. When you're picking skills for your character, at the very least, be familiar with the skills that you're picking, right? Because, I mean, I picked Fury as one of the first skills that I had, and I mean, I even started developing that a little bit further down the road, and I still didn't know all of what it could do. So just be familiar with the skills that you're choosing, and don't worry so much about the other skills because you're not going to need to know them right away.
Be familiar with what you've got, because if other skills are going to be used, they usually have a relatively easily descriptive effect. So like, if a skill allows you to make someone feel really, really sad for something, then usually the descriptor is kind of plain text. It'll be, okay, my skill makes you feel sad. So you won't have to worry about how the skill works, because you can work out what the effect is, because that's usually relatively self-explanatory.
Yeah. I mean, we're very lucky to have a rule book that explains all this stuff. I've seen rule books where it's like, just pick a class and start going for it, and you'll find out when you get there. It's like, that's terrifying. Oh, all that being said as well, like, if you are working with players of this LARP to build your character, don't let them intimidate you into playing a character you don't want to play.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
for sure.
if they're like, we really need a healer, like, here's all these healing skills, try to, like, speak up for yourself and be like, that doesn't sound fun to me. Like, I don't want to play a healer. I want to play a fighter. Oh, no, we already have enough fighters. Like, who cares? You want to play a fighter? Like, you're going to regret putting all of your XP somewhere that you're not having fun, and you're not going to be able to get it back. So,
well, I mean, on that note, it also ruins your time there, right? Because
Exactly.
if you're playing a character that you don't want to play, or playing with skills or a class that you don't want to play, then it's going to affect your game. If you're not going to have fun, then you're not going to go back.
Absolutely.
So screw what everyone else says. Just play the ones that you want to play.
Yeah, if you're playing a character that you don't want to, that other people want to, you're not playing the game for you. You're playing the game for somebody else, and then it takes away why you're there in the first place.
Exactly. And sometimes at LARPs, like, especially really senior players, sometimes they can be a little intimidating. And,
The senior players can be intimidating to the new players.
Yeah. It can be a little intimidating when it's like, I've been here, since so-and-so, and we really need a healer, and like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't know, just don't let people be dicks.
In other words, just speak up for yourself. That's all.
Yeah. If you've taken the steps towards saying, I want to go to a LARP, then you want to make sure that when you do go, you have fun, because it's a game. Games are designed and hopefully will end up being incredibly fun. And if you have a lot of fun, you're more likely to be able to come back and interact with other players. And so you got to do what you got to do, and you got to do it for you.
Yeah, do you.
Do you.
Do you, bro?
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing that I see a lot in new LARPers, and I really wanted to touch on because I think it's one of the biggest mistakes they can make, is waiting until they have the perfect kit or the perfect costume or like the expensive sword until they come to LARP. So they say, I really want to LARP, but I don't want to show up until I have like, until I've spent like $500 on a costume. Like, I don't want to show up in just like a t-shirt and a belt or whatever. Oh my gosh, like you're gonna miss out on so much XP if you do this, and you're really gonna regret it. That's the main thing. You're gonna regret all the XP that you're missing. But it's also like, there's so much more to a LARP than the costuming and like the immersion experience. Like, you're gonna miss out on like all the friends you're gonna make. You're gonna miss out on just like even just camping for a weekend.
The experience is really
is like so much fun. So you're gonna miss out on like all this great stuff if you're waiting for anything. I remember...
I mean, like, on that note, it doesn't have to be anything spectacular, right?
Exactly.
No. I mean, like, I showed up to my LARP with a freaking vinyl thing strapped to my chest, one piece of armor, and that was it. And a kilt. I showed up in a kilt. That was nice.
I missed the kilt.
You missed the kilt?
It was so... Kilted Cron was really great.
Yeah.
Dang it.
But yeah, some LARPs are more strict on costuming and stuff like that. But just try to find, like, if you're strapped for funds or you just can't afford it right now, try to like find like their most basic kit and go with that.
Yeah.
Because you're really gonna regret the time spent away from it. Like, I didn't go LARPing my first year because I was intimidated by rulebook. I didn't have a costume. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I could have showed up to August and September game, and I didn't go because I just, I wanted to like have something better.
Yeah.
And that's silly. You should go and have fun. I missed September game, that was the Necrodancer.
Oh.
So I look back and I'm like, I have so many regrets because I just didn't go because I was like intimidated.
I have so many people around me that just tell stories of the Necrodancer, and I'm sad that I didn't get to experience it, but not because I couldn't go. I was in school at the time, but it still sounds like a time.
Yeah.
I wish I was in the country at the time because that sounds amazing. But, I'm just trying to think. I think like on the subject of like kit stuff, I think my very first LARP kit was a brown shirt that I turned inside out because it had a pattern on it, and a pair of black jeans.
Yeah.
And that was okay because I mean, it was plain. But the thing is, if you start playing, you can work up.
And I actually really want to do a tutorial on this. There's so many things you can do to cheap clothes.
Oh, yeah.
Very simple things that just automatically make them look more medieval.
Yeah.
Like just sewing on some new buttons.
I am not nearly that creative. So,
I'm gonna make the tutorial and I'm gonna send it to you and you're gonna be like, even I can do this.
That's phenomenal. Especially for beginners.
And if Tony can do it, so can you.
If Tony can do it.
Sure.
Yeah. To be fair, like a lot of the costume that some of the people have at the LARP, we just get from thrift stores.
My sweater that I wear for Asher is like the first sweater that I bought. I think it was $5 at a thrift store. It's just an XXL like men's sweater, and I still wear it, and it like looks fine. Like I don't have a reason to change it.
I wear yoga pants and a shirt.
And if Tony can do it, so can you.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: like you can spend tons of money on your costume, and there are people that don't, that are more. How do I say this without sounding like mean? But their characters like make more of an impact, and it has nothing to do with like how expensive their costume is. It's just they're great role players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, like, if you're waiting to go to a LARP because you're like, I want to make a good impression with, like, this big costume, like, oh my gosh, no, don't do that. You can make, like, a huge impression.
Simply just by going and interacting with people.
Yeah, like, it's like Pocket. Like, Colin bought a shirt from a thrift store that cost him very little money, and that halfling has come in and caused so much shit.
Jeez.
And
that
created,
guy.
Yeah, and created, like, such a chaos storm for so many people, and it's like it has nothing to do with costume. It's just what you choose to do with game.
It's like I think it works for him because you look at him and say, okay, he looks relatively harmless in there, and then all of a sudden everything's upside down and everything you own is gone, and you're like, Pocket.
He just looks like a sweet little muffin, and then all of a sudden,
sweet little muffin.
Shit is just happening. You're like, who is this? Like, we've had trials based around Pocket, and it's like, that's what I mean. Like, I literally have friends that want to join, but are just waiting for certain things that they have, and it's like that's just the one thing I could tell you. Just go Who cares about rules? Who cares about costuming? Just go.
Eyes closed, head first, can't lose.
Exactly. Just jump into the cold pool with 2 feet.
Yeah, I actually had I can't remember who gave me this piece of advice. It was back in the UK, as are all my stories. But someone was like, if you're gonna try LARP, don't try and play the great hero. Play a hero and be great.
Yeah, and it's also like when you're joining a LARP, you're starting with a basic amount of XP, and at first that can be a little like, oh, like my character sucks compared to like I wish I could build a character right now with 100 XP. Trust me, the climb to becoming the great hero is so much more rewarding than coming in as the great hero.
I mean, it's like reading a book. It's like reading a story. I mean, obviously the payoff is the end, but in order to get to the end, you have to go through the hero's journey, right?
Yeah.
And that's really the meat of what makes a great hero.
Yeah.
So,
It's
I mean,
like
if you're going into this to be, you know, this great hero and this badass, then, man, I've got some news for you. It's not going to happen.
Not right away, but like you can get there.
Exactly.
Yeah, like, I completely agree. It's a case of, because so when I gen my character Big Bun, I had these ideas of what I wanted him to become, and I was like, well, I can't do that right now. But that doesn't mean I can't become that.
Yeah.
It was start basic and then work from there. And like original design and current design have deviated a little bit. But watching, like looking back on little baby Bicky, it's just like, it's like, bless, you're so young and so naive. And now he's still...
Now you're like Epoch's first enchanter.
Well, yeah.
Which, like that climb must have just been, like, so rewarding.
It was really, really great. There were a bunch of events where I was saving XP and I'm like, I could get this, I could get medic, I could get this, I could get this. These will all be really helpful, but I'm saving for this one thing.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't ever envision him having that. I was like, he's going to be good at hitting things until they make swords. And I was like, no, you know what? Bollocks to the... Sorry, can we swear on this? Or?
Oh yeah, we're not editing this one. We don't care anymore.
Okay.
At first we were like, let's try not to swear, and now I'm like, that's impossible.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was thinking, you know, it doesn't matter about that because this is an avenue that kind of opened up, and if I genned him as a million XP character, then well, not a million, but he wouldn't have turned out the same, and I wouldn't have had that growth because it's all the growth as well.
Yes.
You start out, you start out the peasant that becomes the hero, and then you have all those stories, all the things that have happened to you, all the trials and tribulations that you've come across, all the hardships, all the successes.
All the times at an operating table.
All the times you've ended up on an operating table. That's honestly some of my favourite parts. It's like, what's going to happen to Kron today?
Well,
it's
like
open heart surgery.
It's like Sylvie. I had so many ideas for her to just go into like psychic healing, and like she was just kind of a throwaway character at first, but as I played her, like now she's opening up her own mystic den and tea house, and I'm trying to get psychic enchanter for her, but along the way, like I'm trying to pick up these innkeeping skills, and I'm trying to pick up like cooking skills and stuff for her. So like it's just been it's just so good because sometimes a character takes off in a direction that you have no idea that they're going to go that way.
That's a really good point.
I love that.
That's a really good point for beginners too. If you're one of those people who like to have like a pathway or a plan, an end game, that's great. But don't waste the experiences or the experience points as well on your plan when you can organically grow your character in ways that you didn't even know that you could grow. Like
it's so good.
I've always had a plan for Kron in terms of XP, but now I'm dipping into falconry. I didn't ever
Which
intend
is
for that.
So like what?
Well, I mean,
no, like it makes sense, but I didn't even know you could go into that skill.
I mean, a lot of life skills that people have, we didn't even know we can go into.
Yeah, I think that's part of the beauty of it as well. That like as you interact with more players, it's a case of like you end up realizing like, wait, you can do that?
Yeah.
And like in the rulebook that we have at the moment, there's a list of example life and lore and language skills that you can do, and a lot of it is if you want to come up with something else, speak to your artistic director. And I think that comes back to what you were saying earlier of saying have a good repertoire, a good kind of relationship with your artistic director. Because if you have ideas like coming in with falconry or coming in with linguist or coming in with any like innkeeping, all that's unlikely to be in the rulebook. But God damn it, can it give characters flavor?
And it can, like, for example, tracking is not in the rule book, but Krond uses that almost every game.
Oh my god, that's like one of the most useful skills I've picked up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Hopefully, I can only hope that all of you out there LARPing have as great of a cast as we have, who, we come to them and we say, I have this really cool idea for this thing that I want to do, they do everything within reason to see if they can make it happen for us.
Yeah. Like, it is not uncommon for players to say, I want to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, that's not possible within the rules. Which is, that sometimes happens. Don't expect, exactly, like, don't expect that everything you want to do is going to happen, because there's some things that are just insane. Yeah. I mean, in the same way that if you're playing, say, to take an example, if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, if you want your character to be able to go into space, like, that's unlikely going to happen given the situation and the setting and all that. But there are other...
The DM's just like, give me a week. I'll see what I can do.
It's just a long sigh and I'll get back to you. But in that case, there are other settings that will allow you to do that. So just because you can't do an idea in one thing doesn't mean that it cannot be done. And as you guys say, as you guys were saying earlier, that's not going to happen all the time. Like, sometimes you're going to have an idea and be like, oh, I'd like to do this. And it can be within the realms of possibility. Like, falconry, to take your example, Tony, like, that wasn't in the rulebook. But you know what? So I don't know who suggested it. Thank you to whoever did, because that's amazing. But they went and suggested it, and now they're implementing ways to do that, and they're implementing rules to do that. And it's just...
LARPs are ever growing, which can be as beautiful as it is frustrating.
Yes.
So, like, and that's another thing, like, going into LARP, just remember that you're not always going to win. And there's not even a winning in LARP. Yeah. It's just like life. Like, there just is.
Honestly, at this point, it's more about surviving.
Exactly. Exactly. You're not always going to be the top person. You're not always going to be the hero in every situation. It's a story that's being told. And just do your best to be... whatever part you want to play in that story, if it's the hero, if it's the villain, if it's the bystander, if it's the father who blesses you and gives you your last rites before the warrior goes into battle. Do your best to play that role.
Exactly. Yeah. How you interact with that story is what's going to create the memories. And the memories are really what you're going to be taking home.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, like, with a LARP, so obviously, like, the cast and stuff have ideas of where they want to go, but, like, players' stories aren't written. So you get to write your story.
Exactly. That brings me to my next point.
Yay!
Nice.
One thing I always tell people is sometimes LARP is about making your own fun. And if there's a mod going on that you're not particularly interested in, but it's draining a lot of the cast resources, or if there's something that you want to play for your character, and it's not necessarily going to come up in the cast generated plot, you can create that for yourself. And if there is some downtime, that's a really good opportunity to go to other players and RP with them and create these situations for yourself and create this drama for yourself. And like some of the best things that happen in our LARP are player generated.
Oh yeah.
Like absolutely. Like the whole thing with Verbena and Volk, we'll get into that in another podcast, but that was like entirely player generated.
Or Datura in Pocket.
Or Datura in Pocket, exactly. Like the player generated things are sometimes, or the whole elf debacle. I feel like I'm just going to leave the elf debacle as just this mysterious thing that we never fully explain.
I mean, there is a very, very simple way for players to find out the elf debacle, and that is, come and join us.
We still argue about it to this day. But, like, that being said, like, the whole thing with the elf debacle was, like, cast came in as characters that they didn't think were going to be that important, and it literally flipped our game on its head.
Oh, boy.
So, like, you creating fun for yourself and reacting to situations in ways that your character would and maybe people aren't expecting, like, that's all up to you. If you're going to a LARP expecting everyone else to make your fun, it may not happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Players are unreliable people, I will tell you. like, you can plan for, like, 15, 20, 50 different possible outcomes. You can think you've covered everything.
It's so true.
And someone will be like, hey, I did this thing. And you're like, what? I didn't account for this.
Oh my gosh, it's like in Haven. I used to run a LARP called Haven that was based on Elegy Rulebook. And we created basically these artifacts in game that when brought together, it was basically Dragon Ball. That's all you need to know. But anyway, we created these artifacts and we gave one of the artifacts to the players. We didn't give it to them. They won one of the artifacts, and then one of them comes to me and out of game is like, so using my like surgery skills, I implanted the artifact under the collarbone of one of the other players, and I was like,
you did what now?
What? I'm not gonna say no, but what?
What thought processes brought you to that?
Yeah, like it's gonna go in so many different directions, and that's what makes it so great.
And like even as a player, you can be like, okay, well, we'll do this, and you can think, okay, well, me and my group and all this, this will handle this, and then someone will come up and say, I buried them in the ground, and you're like, hang on, let's take a step back here. You did what?
How are we gonna? Oh gosh, they just changed our whole plot for the whole season. Back to the drawing board. Yeah, that's some of the greatest part of LARP though, is just making your own fun and just like creating relationships with other players and like not depending on anyone to like create your fun.
It even helps deepen the immersion if you create your own fun too, right? Because I mean, suddenly like you're thinking in terms of your character. Okay, what will my character do in this situation? Well, he probably would interact with this particular mod.
Yeah.
Let's see what else he'll do, and he'll go and interact, and then there you go. You got your own little debacle.
Well, that brings in also like this is also a really good idea. I don't know, like people must be doing this in other LARPs, but this is also a fun kind of character to bring in. We have a player, Gerald, who as a secondary character with a couple of his friends brought in a quest giver. So he's taken like income in like all these like different places, and he'll come up to your character and be like, we're looking to have this done, we'll pay you for it, do you want to do it? Like basically they just give you quests, and it's completely player generated, and it's really freaking cool.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
I haven't run into them yet. I was.
They're called the turds.
The what?
Oh God! Yeah.
They're the turds. That's what they've been calling themselves.
I need to know
why.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's TRDS. It stands for something. I have yet to invest the energy to work out what, by which I mean I actually don't know. But like I was speaking to Jared out of game because he was asking me about like, okay, so what kind of things would your character be looking for? I don't know if he's done to other people, but like, and yeah, I love the idea. It's great because if you're playing a video game or a tabletop game.
Yep.
That's good. Oh, I need 4 rabbit pelts. Can you fetch them for me? I'll give you this key.
There's like a great side quest. Yeah.
And that's great. I mean, A, that's great to have in a LARP, and B, it's great that the players were the ones to start.
Yeah, they really took the initiative on that one.
Yeah, it's really cool. I watched him. I haven't gotten a quest from him yet, but I saw him give a quest to. I think he gave the quest to Degrin, and it was something to do with smithing. He was going to pay him in metal to do something, and it's really cool. So like this is the kind of thing like. Literally, LARP is what you make of it, and it's such a cool open experience and such a like free way to like explore so many different things. So yeah, just go there. Honestly, the people that I find are like most successful and have the most fun in LARPing are the people who are willing to like get out of their comfort zone and do something different. Yeah, and like even if they're new players, they just show up and they do what they're interested in doing, and all of a sudden they have everyone's attention and everyone is playing with them, and yeah.
I mean, really, I just sort of roll with situations whenever they prop up. And that's actually how the whole underwater fight with the golem happened, because something came up LARP, and I was like, I guess I'm doing this now, and yeah, so. And
then from there, it just kind of spiraled into chaos.
Yeah, spiraled into this whole closed mod thing, and it was a lot of fun.
It was amazing.
Yeah, you loved that.
I loved it so much.
It was beautiful. I was at a game at the time, so I got to see that, and it was like, yeah, like I think at the recent game we had was it Laura came in as Greyfid's kind of thing.
Was that this game?
Yes, that was May game.
Yeah, May game.
Oh, okay.
So that was May game. And like, so that was a new. I mean, obviously, it was a new player coming in, but like out of game, the players had discussed this kind of interaction. But like, this new player came in, and then like the trial, when they were having the trial, and when they were like confessing what was happening and all that, like everyone was there and just like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
I think it was Father Francis at some point was just kind of like, all right, so I guess I'm the jury now, because someone was like, we need a jury. He's like, yes, we do. You can be it. Okay. Like, that whole interaction was like a new player coming in and I guess referencing what you're saying, coming in and just commanding a presence.
Yeah, like you know what you want to do, you know where you want to go with your story. You're not waiting on anyone else to bring it in. It's all you. And I just feel like that's one of the best ways to play a LARP. I feel like I didn't know that. Like, I just showed up waiting for everyone else around me to figure out where their stories were and, like, where I could contribute. And my backstory didn't, like, actually come into my game until 2017 season, which is, like, kind of sad. Like, I had this, like, great backstory, and, like, now it's developed a little bit more, but, yeah, just, like, create the game that you want to play.
Yeah.
You know? Everyone will get, if you're into it, you're bound to find some other people that are into it.
Yeah. Because if you're doing something that's interesting, you're like, yeah, I want to do this. Other people are gonna be like, what's that over there? And they'll come and ask, what's happening? And you get to explain what's happening. And then some people might be, oh, that's not my thing. I'll just be like, yeah, I'll help you on this thing. And
on that note, like, don't be afraid to cause drama.
Yes.
This touches on another point I want to talk about for new players. But, yeah, like touching on the pocket situation again, he came into town and stole a bunch of people's weapons, which is a big deal in our game. Like, people were not happy.
Yeah.
But it gave them something to do and something to fight against, which is great. So, like, if don't worry about rocking the boat. Like, people may be, like, angry at you in the moment, but that's all in character, and it's going to be a fun situation for them in the end. Like, I was very upset that my sword had been stolen, because Asher had gotten that. She still had the same sword from when she left home, and that was, like, the sword of, like, her brother is a knight, and that was, like, the same sword that, like, he carried and gave to her. So she's, like, very attached to that sword, very attached to her bow. So when it was stolen, she was like, I'm gonna kill him. I am going to kill him. If I lose that sword, I'm going to be upset. Like, Erika is going to be upset. But at the end of the day, like, even if I lost the sword, it was still a fun mod. Create drama. It's fun.
Fun fact, that was actually the first time I used tracking, because I was trying to find the stuff that he stole.
Little bastard.
I know, right?
But that touches on a point that I think is really important to talk about, and I don't think it's talked about enough in the LARP community. And especially in the last couple years of playing, it's been something that has showed up a lot, and I haven't been entirely sure on how to deal with it, and that's emotional bleed. And I've read a really interesting article on Geek and Sundry about it, so I feel like I have a little bit more of a better grasp on what it is and how to deal with it. Do you guys know what emotional bleed is?
I was actually going to ask, like, what does that even mean?
Okay. So emotional bleed is when something that happens to your character affects you personally. So it's when the lines kind of become blurred between, like, somebody has stolen something from my character, and Erika is hurt about it. But, you know, you're playing a game, but sometimes things that happen in game, I mean, we all see what happens in Monopoly. That will break your friend group apart.
Well, and I guess in your case, Risk.
Risk. A lot of people hate me when I play Risk.
I haven't played Risk since.
I'm so sorry.
I feel like I'm sitting in the middle of something very, very terrible.
I'm a very ruthless Risk player, and I always win.
No joke.
Oh boy.
But yeah, it's basically when, you know, something that happens to you in game affects you out of game, or vice versa. Something out of game affects how your game is played. So let's just say Jake and I get into an argument out of game. I don't like Jake anymore, so in game I'm going to do everything I can to screw his character over, which is number one meta, but also just a little immature. So I just wanted to, like, talk about that and see what your guys' experiences with it were. And maybe we'll talk about some solutions on how to avoid it, number one, and how to deal with it, number two.
Okay. Well, from a personal experience, I haven't really experienced that sort of stuff. Like me personally, I don't know if I've triggered anyone outside that made them hate crawling in game or anything like that. But like, I've always just thought of everyone in the group as sort of, we're all in this to have fun. So I don't know, maybe I'm naive in thinking that, but that's just how I feel, right? I tend not to let the little things bother me. If I don't like someone out of game, which is a rare occurrence, I'm not going to let it affect how the game is played, right? Because we're all there for the same thing, and it's to have fun.
But what would you do if, like, let's just say I was taking things that you had done. Let's say I don't like you out of game personally.
Okay.
And then I come up to you with fire, I melt your sword. And this is your enchanted sword that you've spent all this time and hard work to get. And I just did it to you because I don't like you out of game.
How would I feel?
Yeah.
Betrayed.
Yeah, exactly. It's a real thing that happens in LARPs, and I think it's important for people to know that, like, this is something that you may experience, or like this is something that people around you may experience. Like, I've had people who Asher does something and they get very upset because Asher's a brash character. Yeah. And I have to go up to them after game and be like, I'm so sorry, but like that's how it would have happened if it was in that character. And I think that's one good way to deal with it. If you are playing a character who is doing things that is upsetting other people, it's always good to go to that person after game and be like, hey Jake, like, are we still good? Like, I know that was a tense moment, but how are we? Are we good?
Yeah.
And then talk about it. And if they have like some negative feelings towards you, it's helpful to hear them out and try to move past it.
I mean, really, communication is the best way to solve those kinds of problems anyway, right? I mean, even go back to the example that you gave me. If you didn't like me at a game, then my solution to try and figure out how we can compromise the situation so we can, not be a dick to one another is talk about it. Like, hey, is there something that I did, or or tell me what I did wrong? Maybe we can help remedy the situation in some way, right? Because just letting it sit is not going to help.
Oh, it's just going to fester and get worse. And that touches on another subject. Like, if someone is really like, if you've come to the point where you're like, okay, this person is basically bullying me in game, they won't leave me alone, they won't leave my character alone, and I feel like it's personal, that's when it's a good time to go to the AD and be like, look, I'm not having a fun time playing with this person, I prefer to avoid this person at all costs, but they're not allowing me to, what can we do? And your AD team, your cast should be there they should have things in place to support you in this, and help you figure it out.
Yeah.
But hopefully, I mean, everything can be solved between players because we're all LARPers. Like, we all have that one thing in common, so.
Yeah. Actually, on the subject of emotional bleed and kind of how to deal with it and things, I remember I had a fantastic interaction with Summer when she was playing horns.
I think we mentioned this in the first episode.
I think we did, It's such a good moment.
That was me! Yes, so for a while, Summer's character and my character didn't quite see eye to eye, I think is a polite way of putting it. There was we had a massive shouting fest at each other because, I felt, I can't remember exactly what was said from the first episode because I'm a good listener like that.
I can't remember either.
Oh, I feel less bad then. But we were shouting because I was like, you betrayed me, you sold me out to some horrible person. And like, there was lots and lots of things. I think you did touch on. There was one bit where it was like permission for gross bodily contact, and I just spit on them.
Oh my gosh, I would literally kill you.
Yeah,
I'm terrified of spit.
Oh, well, now
Good
that
to know.
Now that I know that, I won't do that.
Thank you.
But yeah, and we had this like massive spit, and then after game, it was like, that was so great, and we just came and hugged each other. And I feel really weird because it's like, yes, look at me, I did a thing that was really good. But I love that because it was a case of where emotional bleed could have so easily happened.
Yeah. And Summer is not the kind of friend you want to lose.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, yeah, it's happened to me several times. Wait, where was I going to go with this? Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
That's right. Yeah, I guess, like, it's very...
I remember.
After you, my dear.
You have the floor.
It's always good to, if you are going to argue with another character, sort of like try to feel out the situation if you don't know the person too well. Like, for example, you don't want to go screaming at a person that out of game you're not sure if like maybe they are triggered by being screamed at or whatever. Like I feel like I would only keep it to people that like I know very well, instead of like screaming at a stranger.
Are you there?
Well, I mean, I guess in that case, proceed with caution.
Exactly. Because like some of us love arguing in game when others, as I have learned, do not.
I love raging in game.
Like it is a LARP and you do want to stay true to your character and like if this is what your character would do, this is what your character would do. But it's always also good to like respect boundaries.
Yeah.
Some people may have a different set of boundaries than you do, and it's just play it by ear. Try to feel out the situation as best you can.
Like, be your character. If your character would do that. But just, I guess, also keep in mind that you are responsible for your character's actions. So, like,
yeah.
Obviously, if you're like, I really don't like that person in game, and I'm going to be like, you there, you've let me down, or this, then go and let them know.
I love that.
But
you've let me down. Love that.
Soul-crushing words.
I'm British. It's the small things. Like, it's like yes, I'm disappointed.
Oh man.
But like, yeah, like I understand that. Yes, you are your character, but so if your character would be upset because that's natural. Mm-hmm. But I guess be upset respectfully.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's I'm gonna interject here. That's a little hard to do in the moment if you really are in your character.
Yeah,
right?
it's a very like touch and go situation because like while you do want to be true to your character, you also don't want to ruin anyone else's game. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of like where I've been with it for the past couple years, where I'm like, I don't want to like ruin anyone's experience here, but my character is brash as heck.
Good save.
Yeah, like it is very difficult to do because it's so easy to get caught up in a moment, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because sometimes RP is happening or events are happening and it's like, this is so good, and you're really in the moment.
Yeah, it's always good to check in with people, and one way that I have been able to avoid it is like in forum posts I'll be like, or in forum posts I'll mention, I know that Asher is a lot, but that is not me, and anything I do or say to you, like, is not personal, and I'll try to, like, talk to people afterwards.
I mean, that just goes back to what I said earlier. Communicate with
exactly.
people.
Just communicate. Yeah.
Like, it's...
I come with a warning.
More like a caution sign.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, I think, yeah, if you experience a thing in game whereby you could have, like, you were being angry or upset or happy or any emotion that's just cranked up a bit, then out of game or like once game is cool, exactly as you were saying with communication, it's just going there like, hey, we cool, and as you were saying, like, are we cool, is everything all right? Chances are, if everyone else in the group is as cool as anybody else is, they'll be like, yeah, that was great.
If someone wasn't so cool with what happened though, it's always good to like respect their feelings and not be like, oh, well, like, they're a jerk because, like, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like, try to be respectful of everyone.
If you're talking to someone, and I guess if they didn't appreciate how your character handled the situation towards them or whatnot, I mean, I had a point to this. Just like...
It's a bit of a sticky pickle situation to be put in.
Yeah, it's the one thing in LARP that, like, you know... Cast really doesn't have control over like the player's feelings, and like you don't have control over anyone else's feelings. So it's like any other social situation where it's like hard to gauge your response or hard to gauge other people's responses. But it's just part of being human, and try to be forgiving and hope that everyone else is forgiving, and just have fun with game. Oh my gosh, this might be bad advice, but ask for forgiveness later. Because listen, exactly. It's better to ask forgiveness than to ask for permission, because like you like having that good character moment, while someone may be upset with it at that time, maybe a couple months down the road they might be like, you know what? That was really good. And that's happened to me before, where I'm like, that really hurts that person said that about my character, but then I'm like, it suited the moment. It really did. And like, it wasn't personal, and it was like in the I feel like y'all are just really good characters, and my character just causes a lot of problems. So I've experienced this more than the other Two of you.
I mean, I just play a character that gets involved in things and really likes smashing critters.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I do.
I don't know. You
Cron
do it
smash.
good. Cron does smash, but Cron also track.
He protect.
He attack, but
Most importantly, he
track.
track. Oh my gosh, I'm making
That's
that
beautiful.
meme.
That's beautiful. There are enough pictures of Cron.
Please make that a thing.
I'll try my best.
We'll do this. It'll be a thing.
So I'll just like use this example from the Geek and Sundry article just to end off this little conversation. She was talking about one of her first LARPs that she went to. I really should have gotten the writer's name up because it was a very good article. If you're on Geek and Sundry or you know anything about it, it's a really great article. She was talking about her character basically decided that, you know, if I were really playing my character, she would have a crush on this character. So she played it as if her character was like, you know, having feelings for him. But then the player out of game started seeing another one of the LARPers. And it bothered her, like out of game. It felt, she was a little sad because like, oh my gosh, now their characters are going to get together and my character is going to be heartbroken. Yes, that's it. What's Courtney Craft. Courtney Craft wrote the article. And it's a really great article. I suggest new LARPers read it because emotional bleed is something that not enough people are warned about when coming into a LARP. But basically, the way that they solved it was communication. So, I mean, I feel like that's really important for a LARP, and good point, Tony.
Yeah, I try.
The last thing I want to talk about today is another question I was asked by another friend. My friend Evan, who listens to the podcast. He's not a LARPer.
That's nice.
But
we listen to the podcast, man.
Yeah. Hi, Evan.
Hi.
Evan, I'm so proud of him. He just moved away and he got a big boy job. Anyway, he asked, we were using some terms that he wasn't so sure about, and any new LARPer would probably not be entirely certain on a lot of these terms. One of the main things he had a question about was, what is an NPC?
Oh, okay. Those kind of stuff.
Yeah, so like terms that a lot of you see a lot in the LARP community, but you may not be entirely sure of what they mean.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can go over some terms and acronyms and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, NPC stands for non-player character, which means that it's a character that is cast generated and not played by an actual player playing the game.
They're not really gaining XP and building themselves at all. They're more there to push plot forward.
It's like playing Skyrim and you go up to the innkeeper. The innkeeper's an NPC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all of the people who are playing the game are player characters, PCs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another good one that I see thrown around a lot in LARP communities that may not be well known are IG and OOG.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was either when I first started. I only figured it out like a few games later.
Yeah. So IG is in game. IG. It's the acronym for it. Is that what it is? Acronym?
Yeah, acronym.
And OOG is out of game. So when people are saying, I saw this IG, but OOG I thought, you might be like, what the heck is this caveman language that everyone speaks?
You ook? No, me ig. Like, I was actually a bit confused about this because, like, I've been LARPing for a while in the UK before I came here, but in there it was ik and ook for in character and out of character.
Yeah.
And so I was like, ik, ook, what's this? And so yeah, even if you're even if you have some experience, you can still encounter times you don't know.
Absolutely.
And that's okay.
And yeah, I see that could be in character. There's also OOP, which is OOP, out of play. So generally, like let's just say your character has something that can make them go invisible, or like, you know, for any other reason that your character would be out of play, someone might refer to it as OOP. There's also, what was the one I just had in my head? I'm so scattered, guys. I'm so scatterbrained. It's been a fucking week. Oh my gosh.
Man, it's been
one
a
of
month.
those days.
Oh my gosh, yes, all over the place.
One acronym that's been thrown around a lot that I didn't quite get at first is FOIG.
Yes, FOIG is a big one.
FOIG, which means find out in game, which is something that a lot of people throw around, and I'm gonna be honest, sometimes it gets on my nerves.
Oh, sometimes it's very frustrating because I'll go to someone and be like, hey, okay, for example, like, I'm trying to, like, build up Sylvie's psychic state, so I'll go to the character Taka and I'll be like, hey, does Taka have, like, this thing in game? Like, can I learn this from Taka? And she'll just look at me and go, Foig. Like, instead of, it's basically a way to stop people from meta-ing.
I mean, that's fair when you use like that, but I get irritated when people, either in-game or at a game, come up to me, and I'm minding my own business, and they're like, hey, so I'm doing a thing, and I'm thinking about doing something like this, yada yada. Most times this happens in an out-of-game situation, but then I'm like, oh, that's cool, so, like, how are you gonna go about doing this? And then they're like, Foig! I'm like, why would you bring that up to me and get me so interested to the point where I would want to know more and then, like, not tell me?
That's the fun
Fuck,
of
that
it.
irritates me.
That's the fun of it.
It's a balance between, because there are some things like it's better if you find this out in game rather than out of game, because then you get to experience it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Should we define in-game and out-of-game? I think, like, does it make enough sense?
I mean, it sounds pretty self-explanatory, but in-game means at present during the time in which the game is happening, right? So in-game means while the game is on the go. And out-of-game means that either the situation or the information or whatnot was out of game, as in it wasn't part of the game at all.
For example, and we should get into the definition of meta as well because we've used it a lot. For example, let's just say you are in game and you get some sort of minor injury and you have to go out of game to treat it, and you see something happen in game. You see two characters have an interaction, but you're out of game. Your character doesn't know that because you're not in game.
Yeah, the character is technically not in that situation at the moment. You are, but your character's not. You're at a game.
So
taking that information that you know and bringing it into game is what's known as meta.
Metagaming, exactly. So that sort of plays into like what that'll give you a better definition of what in-game and out-of-game are, and metagaming. And do we want cheesing? Cheesing's a good one. Cheesing and cheating.
Oh, cheesing.
So, okay, so the definition of cheating is when you, like, let's just say you're using a skill that you don't have. That's cheating.
Well, basically breaking the rules.
Exactly, that's breaking the rules. Cheesing is when you're sort of, bending the rules to your advantage a little bit. So let's just say you were at 10 XP, somebody hit you for 5 metal twice, you should be bleeding out in the field, but instead you're deciding to stay up for a couple more hits. It doesn't really ruin the game for anyone, but it's cheesing to your benefit.
Yeah.
What's another example of cheesing? Because it's kind of a gray area between cheating and playing fair.
There's a acronym. What is it? RAW, read as written, and that, like, basically a lot of people use this for skills in game, where a skill will say a specific thing, and they'll sort of use that to their advantage, and I don't want to say bend it to their advantage, but if the rulebook technically says one thing, and they're trying to do something, or they see someone trying to do something that goes against what is exactly written in the rulebook,
right?
Yeah.
Then
that is cheesing.
Yeah, that's
and
cheating.
It is not allowed.
No. Counting slow for countdowns as well. Like if you have like in this system, in many systems, you have like if you go down to 0 hit points, you usually have like a bleed count as the time it takes you to bleed out.
Right.
It's usually so many seconds. Now you could be like 1, 2, 3. I'm exaggerating there, but if you count slower than you should be, that's
1, 2,
1
2.5.
Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.
That's cheesing.
Yeah. It isn't making it game breaking, but it's still like, well, you technically shouldn't be.
Yeah, like you took 20 minutes to die when you should have taken 10.
Yeah.
And it kind of does ruin the game for everyone else because, a lot of players are trying to play an authentic game where it's like, you know what? All the shitty stuff that comes to my character, what happens, happens. But if you're getting the advantage of a slower bleed time, it's like, well, I've already died twice. you should have died by now by rights.
Yeah.
You know, why do you get the advantage and I don't? So yeah, it doesn't exactly break game, but it's just a dick move.
It can make people feel a little bit miffed.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit miffed. I love that. Okay, so guys, do you have any other tips that we didn't mention that you want to mention before we clue up?
Well, I'll take the initiative here.
All right.
Okay, so I think I might have mentioned this in the first episode. If you're like your friend and you're thinking about joining a LARP and you're not too sure, shag the rule book, shag expensive costumes and stuff. Just go and give it a shot, and if you like it, then that's awesome, and you can keep coming back, you can keep playing, and you're going to be involved in a great community. And if you don't like it, then what's the worst that can happen?
I mean, you didn't really lose anything for trying.
Exactly, right?
You gave it a go. You miss 100% of the opportunities you don't take.
Exactly.
Wayne Gretzky. Was that him?
I
Wayne
think it was you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
But Jake said it better.
Yeah, I know.
Jake said that.
I know, but you said Wayne Gretzky, and that was a paraphrase. So anyway.
Jake, do you have any parting advice?
You're not going to get everything right the first time you do it, but that's okay, because nobody does. In real life, in games, in tabletop, in stories, whatever. Nobody gets everything right the first time they do it. But build on that. If you make a mistake, how would your character react to that? Or what goes on? If you do something and it's like, oh, okay, I really didn't mean for this to happen, but now it's kind of spiraling out of control, how would you go about rectifying that? The things that go right are just as important as the things that go wrong, because they all help develop who you are and what you do.
That's sort of,
So go with it.
Exactly. Just keep moving forward and don't give up. I mean, as cheesy as it sounds, I mean, that's pretty much how you're supposed to tackle life and, anything else in between.
Yeah. That, you just took the words right out of my mouth. That was going to be my parting advice. Learn to have fun with the failure in both LARP and in life, because you're going to learn so much from your failures. You're going to develop so much from your failures. It's okay to be embarrassed. It's okay to lose. It's okay to lose. It's okay to die.
Yeah.
Because
not in real life.
I don't even consider a loss a true loss, because every loss is an experience gain, and an experience make you wiser, and you'll know, you'll learn from your mistakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
it's okay to it's okay to be salty, and it's okay to be upset, but don't let that ruin the opinions of the people that you're having fun with, and don't let it ruin the game for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because so many people are missing out on LARP right now because they just couldn't let certain things go.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. But yeah, learn to love the failures, learn to love the setbacks.
Yeah.
That's what I got for you.
Yeah.
If you die in Canada, you die in real life. But if you die in the game, you don't.
It's like trial dying.
Yeah. I just dip my feet in, see how this goes.
Well, Jake, thank you so much for being here for this portion of the podcast this time.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure, and a little bit nervous, but great.
Oh my gosh, no, you did great. I liked this. It's always fun just to talk shit.
Yeah.
Sit crooked and talk straight.
What?
We sit crooked. Okay, anyway.
I'll try to explain something. Nope. Okay, moving on. See, embrace the failures, Erika.
Just moving right along. All right, so by the time this goes up, we'll probably be on our way to game. So I will see you guys at game.
Yeah, because it's this weekend.
Yeah,
Yes.
This weekend is next game.
Oh boy.
Yeah. It's gonna be a time.
Yes.
See you at game, Tony.
See you at game, Erica.
See you at game, Jake.
See you at game, Erika.
See you at game, Jake.
See you at game, Tony.
That was beautiful. See you at game, everybody out there. Even if you're not going to be at game.
See you at game, everyone.
We'll eventually see you at
Have
game.
a good day, guys.
Bye.
Bye.